Do you want to know how to teach kids social skills? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, child development, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about teaching children social skills. So what are the best social skills to teach children, and how do you teach them a self-government way? Those are the two things that we're going to be talking about in this video. One of the best social skills that a person can develop, in fact, it is one of the hallmarks of a person who has good practical intelligence, is the ability to converse, to talk with other people. So that means that your child has to have opportunities to talk to you. So making sure that your child has good open communication with you and with other people around them is vital. Also, it's super important before we get into this big social skills discussion for us to recognize the best place to learn social skills. I think many people think that the best way to learn social skills is from their friends because that's our social life, right? But actually, I disagree. So there are only three different ways that a person learns social skills. They either learn them from their family, like their parents, or from same age peers, or from the media. Now, if you look at those three places that you could be picking up social skills, what place do you trust most? If you're like me, you maybe want to teach social skills to your children yourself. My husband and I decided early on that we cared a lot about social and that practical intelligence, social intelligence, was actually one of the most influential intelligences in a person's life. In fact, if a person has practical intelligence, they can be a success in business even if they're not the smartest ones in the room. This is definitely true in the case of Steve Jobs, the guy who came up with Apple. He, of course, did a lot of smart things inventing Apple, but he did it with a friend. And what Steve's main genius was getting the people to invest in Apple, to move the business of Apple forward. And in no time at all, his friend was ousted out of the business for new, younger guys who were doing development that Steve and his buddy had taught them. So suddenly, brains weren't worth as much. And when Apple almost died, because they had kicked Steve out of the company, they decided they better bring him back. When they brought him back, soon all the money came back, all the influence came back too. Steve had practical intelligence. This was an intelligence that made a mega mogul, that made a huge company. And he didn't have to be the smartest guy around to do it. When parents are teaching their children the practical intelligence skills, the social skills that they need to make a deal, solve a problem, explain themselves, understand other people, have an intuitive sense about what somebody might be feeling or thinking at the time. Those are all practical intelligence skills that children absolutely need to develop, and they're going to learn them best from loving and caring and intuitive parents. They're going to learn them by associating with their parents and their siblings in the home, but also as they watch their parents associate with other adults in the sphere around them. So people at church, people at school, in the community, at the store, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. As they watch their parents communicate with all of these different people, and as the parents deliberately teach their child that they have something to say and invite them into all the conversations with these other people as well, then the child will learn good practical intelligence, good social skills. Lots of times when people talk about social skills, I think they start thinking of stuff like manners. Manners are important. They're just one little component of social skills training, however. So when a person learns good manners, that makes them a little bit more socially acceptable. However, manners are not as important as being able to be articulate and express yourself so that people understand where you're coming from. If you're going to have good social skills, you've got to have something to say, which means you've got to get used to participating in conversation. Another thing that makes for great practical intelligence / social skills is good eye contact. Body language is important, and the way that you connect with a person through body language and through your eye contact is vital. It lets them know you're confident and that you're listening to what they have to say too. So being able to listen to other people, express yourself, and connect with them with your eyes and body language are all going to be key factors in good social skills. Now, of course, we could discuss character development qualities that would also factor into good social skills. Things such as honesty and integrity, kindness, friendship, persistence. Those types of things are going to make for great social skills training as well. Here's another thing. Work. People who can work are generally more socially acceptable. If somebody is entitled and expecting everything to come to them, and they can't serve or sacrifice for other people or do some of the work needed to provide for themselves, then suddenly nobody wants to be with them anymore. People who are doing things, working hard, are the ones who are usually the greatest social influencers. I need to get on my soapbox about this for just a second too, because I think that people do not understand that fact. They think that good social is chilling with your friends, is just hanging out, doing what you want, eating what you want, but that's actually not really powerful social. That social doesn't take you anywhere. In fact, it keeps you stuck doing nothing. Good social moves you forward, and our society's struggling a little on that right now because we misunderstand the concept of leisure. Leisure is actually study. That's what it used to mean. Now it just means get entertained. But when people used to do leisure time in the evenings, they would study, they would learn, they would work on their instruments, they would do something productive still, even though it was different than their day's work. Is this fun for you? We've got more to come. We're going to be talking about how to teach social skills the self-government way. But before we get to that, click that subscribe button and don't forget the notification bell. When you click that, then you'll be notified when new content comes out. So let's talk about the self-government way to learn social skills. So there are skills that I teach my children. They are called the 4 basic skills. These children's books each teach one of the 4 basic skills. The 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. Not only is a person able to take care of all of their behavioral problems by learning these 4 basic skills, but these 4 basic skills also are social skills. They are adult skills that a person can use for life. So let's talk about some of the steps to these skills that relate directly to what we were talking about before. Before we get into steps to skills, I've got to mention this book too, Parenting a House United. In this book, it outlines how to go about setting up an environment where a person learns self-government. When a person learns to take personal responsibility for themselves, communicate effectively with family members, that is self-government. And that's also good social skills training. So you're going to want to learn all of the things in here as far as setting up the environment at your home. So let's talk about those 4 basic skills first. I think that's a great place for us to start in this video. So when a person follows instructions, accepts no answers and criticism, accepts consequences, or disagrees appropriately, step number 1 is to look at the person. In all 4 of those skills, the first step is the same. In fact, the second step is also the same. The second step is to keep a calm face, voice, and body. So a person who has good practical intelligence understands how to keep themselves calm. They understand that it's desirable to be calm and that it's actually powerful to be calm. It's pretty common nowadays for people to think that aggression is power, but actually, every person who has experienced aggression and then experienced calmness in the same circumstance recognizes it takes a lot more power to be fully calm. And I mean fully calm, like I'm totally okay. I don't have to be in control of everybody else. I just have to be in control of myself. I believe it was Winston Churchill that said, "When there is no enemy within, then the enemies outside cannot hurt you. What wise words! That applies to so many things, but especially to yourself. If you are your own enemy within yourself, then you will always see enemies on the outside. But if you have it all controlled and calm within yourself, then you can handle anything that's happening on the outside. So all 4 of the 4 basic skills have the 2 first steps in common. After that, it gets a little bit different. But those 2 first steps the same. Look at the person, establish a connection. Now think, if you are doing that with your children all the time, if you go to them and say, hey, look at me, I need to give you an instruction. I need you to go make your bed, okay? And then they look at you, they keep a calm face, voice, and body, and they say, okay. And they go make the bed and come back and tell you, I made the bed. Is there anything else? They have done now all the steps to following an instruction, but wow, that they started out by looking at you, keeping a calm face, voice, and body. What does that do for their social skills training, for their social development? Well, this teaches them eye contact every time with you. This also teaches them that they can be calm and be okay. Now, one of the steps of all of the skills, except for the skill disagreeing appropriately, is that they can always use the skill disagree appropriately. Disagreeing appropriately is a fantastic social skill. So let's say you tell them they need to go and make their bed, but there's something else that they feel they need to do first. Well, now they can use the skill disagree appropriately in order to explain themselves in an appropriate and respectful manner. So teaching your children their roles, which is something that we teach as part of the TSG parenting system, and teaching them how to communicate with respect and with unity and love and understanding is something that they can use in all of their experiences of life. In some of the skills, there's a step called dropping the subject. Dropping the subject means a person is not going to continue to talk about an old situation. They are going to move on. They are going to be okay with silence, if need be. That means they're not going to be gossiping about a certain person or circumstance. They're just going to let it go and decide to move forward instead of get stuck in the past. That type of forward action and letting go of things that are not going to be helpful to the person is not only personally powerful, but it actually creates a leader. When a parent does teaching self-government parenting, there's 5 different teaching styles that I teach parents how to use with their children to correct problems in a calm and effective manner and to interact with their children and teach their children certain things. Those 5 teaching styles are also taught to the children. So the children know how to correct behavior problems just as well as the parents do. It's completely predictable. What is that going to do for a child? Well, when they're in a social situation, they're going to start thinking of the problem that's in front of them or the social moment that's happening in terms of the steps to a correction. They'll start analyzing more. That is more maturity anyway. Speaking of analyzing, part of the teaching self-government system is learning cause and effect. There are some different problem-solving exercises that we do, which we call SODAs, that teach problem solving to the children, helps develop that prefrontal cortex so that they are prepared not to get sucked into bad social circumstances. But also, we have meetings where they take ownership and they get to have input on things. So this is great for their discussion and development. But also, they get the opportunity to earn negative consequences. And our most common negative consequence that we use to teach cause and effect is an extra chore. Extra chores teach what? Work. And after doing enough extra chores, you soon learn that there's no big deal about work. Work's okay. It doesn't bug me. I can get stuff done fast. Work is the #1 thing that builds confidence in a person. I've seen that time and time again as I've worked with my children and various foster children that have come to live with me over the years. Not only do you want your children to do work as negative consequences, but they should also have daily work that they do, and you should be working together as a family on a daily basis as well, or at least a weekly basis, making sure that the family has a time to nurture this love of work and seeing a job well done. I could go on and on about principles and skills that are contained in the Teaching Self-Government Parenting program that can help your children learn proper social skills, learn how to talk out their problems, learn how to get along with people, and how to not take things personally, things that will help decrease anxiety, all of these things that help with proper social development. But in this short video, I do not have time. There is so much more information at the website, teachingselfgovernment.com. If you go there, look for the TSG parenting course. That's going to be a great way for you to learn all the nuts and bolts of teaching self-government. So go ahead and go to teachingselfgovernment.com today, and I'll see you there.